guys ever heard the name John Scarney before? Anyone ever heard this name?
Nope.
No? Might ring a few bells? Well, he was a top kind of gambling and hustling consultant of the last century. He was a technical advisor on the movie The Sting. It was actually his hands doing the moves for Robert Shaw and Paul Newman during that film. He got acclaimed during World War II for actually writing a weekly column and touring all over Europe, advising the GIs on actually how to conduct their card and dice games and protect themselves from professional card cheats. Actually, he received a commendation from President Truman for saving millions of dollars of GIs money. But he got well known in the underground world of hustling and gambling for something he did when he was quite young. He was in his early 20s, and he used to perform at the time around his hometown of New York City. He would go around and perform at private parties, that type of thing. He'd do basic card tricks that other guys were doing. But one night he was at a private party, and he took a deck that he was shuffling around with. He decided to throw in something that was kind of his own he played around with. Took a deck, shuffled it up, squared it up, gave the deck a cut, caught an ace.
All right, what's happening here in this first version of the ace cutting routine, the one I generally use, is you have your 4 aces on top of the deck and a slug here, and you've got your key card on the bottom, your breather, whatever you're going to use to be able to cut to really easily. And basically you're just going to keep control of that slug, moving it around, and then what you're going to do is you're going to place it into the middle by doing a false cut here by peeling off the bottom, which of course puts your little key card on top, and you can spread out, show that there's nothing to betray the location of any one of those cards, and then reach in and cut to an ace. Now this is a very effective, straightforward ace cutting routine, and especially combined with the fact that you're moving it around and being able to show the top and bottom cards and move it over here, all the time moving and keeping control over that slug of cards, the aces and your key cards, so whenever you want you can reach in and cut to the next ace. And when I ever perform this, I always give the story of John Scarney. I usually tie it in to give it some kind of emotional hook. As the professor always said, you wanted to give a story or some reason for the audience to care about it. And the Scarney ace cutting story goes way back to when he first wrote about it in the books and gained notoriety on it. Bill Malone did a lovely version of this trick on TV. It's a very straightforward version that I do here, tell the story, and one thing I will often do is hand the deck out to an audience member when it's in the situation, 2 cards in, 2 aces in, you got your key card on the bottom and you got the slug on top. Offer to them to have the card cut, the deck cut, and they cut to, say, in this case, a very lucky card, the 9 of hearts, and you say, oh, that's a good card, it's probably not going to win you a lot of money. In this case, if you're playing against Scarney, you'd cut to one of a little bit higher of the same suit, because you know the next ace in line, if you know the order of the slug, is the ace of hearts. Do me a favor, let's play a little high card, low card. Cut the deck in half somewhere here. Let's see how you do.
Yeah,
the resident hustler here. 2 of hearts. 2 of hearts.
Oh, God.
Probably not gonna win you a lot of money in that. 2 of hearts. But if you're playing against John, he might do one a little bit better of the same suit. He might reach in and cut to, say, the ace of hearts there, just to kind of one up you there.
Now those are very straightforward. Those 3 are very easy. Now what I'll do on the last one is to give it a little bit more of a hit. What I'll do is I'm going to move the key card up to the top. You just do a double undercut, however you want to do that. Bring that key card to the top. So now your key card is right on top of that final ace. And then what I'll do is I'll just stack some cards on top of it. You can do this straightforward stacking, just knowing how much the number is. You can do a 0 shuffle if you want to keep track and not have to worry about it. Do it a few different times. Just keep track of how many cards you let fall on top of that slug. So now you got a known number of cards on top of your key card here. And then you can cut to that number. You can announce ahead of time. I was really paying attention there. I think I let 11 or 12 cards fall on that. You name the number it is, and you can count down 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, reaching the next card, which of course is the ace of spades. There you go. You got yourself a pretty good demo to establish yourself as an expert at the card table here.
If you actually recall, I always give this deck a few shuffles. Now what happens during that shuffle is I'm catching a glimpse and looking at different cards, trying to see where they lie in the deck. What happens during that is I actually see where the card is, like say the final ace, feel how many cards riffle off above it, I therefore know its exact number in the deck. Then all one has to do is have the ability to actually cut to that number, and you should be the card you're looking for. That should be obvious. Well, Rossi and these other guys knew that no one had this uncanny ability with a deck of cards, So John figured out of the room unscathed. He'd actually have to prove the truth of his assertion. Ace of spades should be down around 12 cards down. All you got to do is be able to cut off the right number of cards. Reach over there and cut off the right number of cards. Should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which of course will get us to that next card, which is the Ace of Spades. And that's a little demonstration of something known as card control. There, just.
Now, oftentimes what I'll do right after this effect, especially if it's an impromptu situation, is you now end up with that key card right on top of the deck. And you can say, look, this doesn't have to work just with the aces. There's nothing special about that. What I'll do then is actually spread over and invite one of the spectators to actually indicate a card. And what I do in this situation is I'm going to take and I'm going to position that key card right above their indicated card. And the way I do that is actually kind of like a bottom deal. I'll actually squeeze the card out and then move it out and then let it ride, and you basically just cull it along underneath while you have somebody point out a card, name a card. You don't even have to move it. Say they say the name is 6 of hearts. You move it right into position, one above it, and you can spread out very nicely and cleanly and say, look, 6 of hearts. Down there it's actually 22 from the top. Of course, you're just making that up. Then you do whatever kind of false cuts and shuffles to control that situation. Again, placing that card, your key card, keeping it above the selected card, do a few different shuffles and controls, have them name the card, say, I don't even know what number it is, what the name of the card was, 6 of hearts, is that what it was? Down there around actually 23 from the top, and you're actually able to cut right to the 6 of hearts. And there you go. There's a pretty good little demo of card control.
Now to show you this isn't something that's just used for the aces. I'm looking forward here. Do me a favor. Just name a card you see somewhere down in the middle. You can point to it and name it. 10 of hearts. That's actually not around the middle, but yeah, it's fine. No problem. Actually spread it out. See where it is. It's actually only 14 from the bottom of the deck. I don't know if you had enough time to keep track of that. What I'm going to try to do is I'm not actually even concerned with the identity of the card. I'm merely going to try to follow its location. This is what's known as shuffle tracking. Czechoslovakian blackjack team did this in the mid-'80s, follow the high cards, do various shuffles and cuts. It actually should be right below middle there. What was the card again?
10 of hearts.
So if I could actually cut to say the 10 of hearts, that actually might be.
Wow.
I used to be able to do that.
All right, this is a continuation on from the little Scarny ace cutting routine I just talked about. And this is actually something I will do when I'm in a formal situation, like a close-up room with the Magic Castle or some kind of show that's set up that I really want to have effects flowing one to the other.
First of all, you've got your 4 aces on top of the deck, and then the remainder of the deck. And you'll see down here at the end, in this case the 6 of spades is my key card, my cut card. But right here, you got the lovely McDonald's Aces gaffs. Those of you who aren't aware of it, I just destroyed the entire effect for you right there. Anyway, I keep those on the right from the bottom, covered by the key card, and the aces on top. And what this allows you to do is, first of all, you can come right out and you can shuffle the deck so your heart's content. And you can actually do this lovely little spread here, and immediately, because nobody's going to really catch that those aces are on top, spread halfway, do this nice little lovely flourish, and you can come all the way to the end, and you can see those gaffs aren't going to be shown, aren't going to become visible unless you really go all the way. So what this does is just kind of puts it, any kind of suspicion, puts them to sleep. Now generally I will go right into the Scarny ace cutting routine, which is done exactly the same way. Same thing, pulling off chunks from the bottom there, a false cut, and cut to it. And all you have to be aware of is when doing that is you just don't want to flash those gaffs by taking too small of a packet there. And it really has never been a problem for me. Same thing, you just pull off a chunk there, which includes the gaffs and the key card going right on top of the aces, and you go through exactly the same way, cutting till you get through all of those aces. Do the same thing. I will bring that key card up to the top and then count down, do the count exactly the same way. So then we end up with the 4 aces out there, and the gaff is out there with the cards that have been counted down. Now you've got the, sorry, not the gaff, the key card. Now you've got the gaffs here on the bottom. What I'll do is just scoop up this, shuffle them off to get rid of that key card, not that you have to worry about it, and scoop up the aces in this direction here, so the ace of spades ends up on top. Put them right on top. Do any kind of false shuffles you want to do to retain the order, keeping the gaffs on the bottom, keeping the aces on the top. And now you're ready to go into a McDonald's ace routine, basically, which I do by doing another ace cutting routine, doing a more flourishy one, which I'll do like the Benzea spin cut out of there. And something on the spin cut here that I'd like to address here. A lot of guys will do this cut by just doing it straight out. If you aren't familiar with it, it's a slip cut that ends up here and you flick out with the finger here. It's kind of hard to do slow. A lot of guys will just do this straight out. I like to put a little bit of a flourish in so it looks like that card is coming out of the top by picking up that top half, kicking it out and letting it drop back down. I think it adds to the illusion that it's coming out of the middle a little bit. So now there's the one ace of spades. Now you're just going to ring in the 3 gaffs, and there's all kinds of different revelations you can do for this. You can just let one drop in, shuffle off, push halfway, and then pull out and reveal that one there. That's a very nice revelation. Then you can do like the Pete Fortin pop-out move, or you can do it on the table like that. Any number of ways to do that. And the last revelation, which I really like, is one by Michael Skinner. It's the haunted card. Basically, you're just going to get a break above that bottom card. Again, just push out, come back, get a break with your right thumb there. Undercut a small packet with that gaff card there. You can do this as a regular revelation, obviously, but it works very well with the gaffs here. And what you're going to do here, let me set it up so you can see it, is you're going to bring this upper packet off the edge a little bit and drag backwards a little bit as you let go with this left thumb. And what's going to happen is that card will actually kind of spin out there just like that. Let me do this again so it's not there getting warped under the lovely lights. But at speed, it actually looks very kind of cool as that card just kind of spins out there in a very kind of interesting way. Now that you've rung those 3 gaffs in with your real ace of spades, you've kept track of that slug of aces on top. Now you're set to go into any kind of McDonald's ace routine you want to. Just 3, 6, 9, 12, however you want to do it. You've got your 3 aces here, and you're basically just going to switch them out. 1, 2, 3. Switch those out. And you're ready to go off to the races here for what I think is one of the best effects you can do with the deck of cards, the McDonald's aces. Those of you who don't know, there's a lot of different versions of it out there. A lot of different vanishes. I'll let you kind of look those up for yourself. But this is my way of getting in and performing a nice little segment on ace cutting routine. Alright, here's another ace cutting routine. This is actually a nice one that I'll throw in sometimes depending on the formality of the show. It's actually Marlowe's estimation aces, and it's a nice one to kind of show some of the guys if they aren't aware of it. You got your slug of cards, the aces, up on top of the deck. What you're going to do is you're just going to add some cards. Put a known number of cards on those aces. Doesn't matter what that number is. I generally shoot for putting like 10 to 12 cards on top. And you're just going to have to become comfortable with whatever number it is, because the number you put on top is going to dictate where they end up when you cut. So at this point, have your known number on top. I generally aim to throw them in around 10, 11, 12, somewhere around that position. So then when you do the faro here in a second, it's going to put them down around mid-deck or a little bit above. So what you're going to do now is actually do a faro shuffle. And you can do it in the hands. I generally do it on the table, do a table faro. Now, it doesn't matter if it's perfect or not, as long as it hits that slug, and that slug is perfect. As long as you know you nailed that and you hit those, then you're in business. So what you have now in the situation is that slug is now down around the middle. If the first ace was a 12, it's now down to 24, and separated by one card. Ace, card, ace, and different card, ace, and different card. So now all you got to do on this first one is actually you square up nice and neat. There's nothing, no crimps or anything. You literally reach in and estimate where those aces are. And you're going to be able to many times cut directly to an ace like that. And if it's not on the face here, you know it's going to be the next card. So if I were to reach in and cut, and I saw that there wasn't one there, I would know that it's the next card right there. And if you actually know the order of the aces, then you know that the ace of diamonds was the top card, that there aren't any other aces up here. So what you're going to do in the situation is, once you cut to one, put it out there, and you can show that if you cut one card earlier or one card later, you would have been off. And what you're going to do is actually displace that one card out of the way. Now, in this case, you don't really need to do it because it was the ace of diamonds, which was the first ace. What you do is you put this back and put the card that you displaced right back on top. Now you're going to reach in again and cut right into that same area. Again, I cut right at the ace of clubs again, which is lucky, and there again is the next ace, the ace of clubs. Now I know that there isn't another ace here, and I know that the next card isn't an ace, so you show that. Now this one is an ace. So oftentimes what I will do is I'll actually take and drag it out a little bit, leaving that out jogged a little bit. You're going to displace the cards, put it back, And what I come in is I'll come in and grab a little break here. Now you can dead cut directly to it like you did the other ones, but this time sometimes I'll reach over and cut it left-handed, and I want to have a nice showy moment to be able to dead cut directly to that card. And you got it right there. Same thing again, there's no aces here. You know that there's one indifferent card, and you've got the final ace right there. Same thing, when I pick it up to show it, I'll kind of jog it back a little bit. Displace the card, you don't really need to here. You can put it back exactly the same way, and then I'll pick up a break on that now that I've got the ace right there. And now you can do any kind of revelation you want. You could cut directly to it if you wanted to keep it in theme there, or the way I did it, and I often will do it, use Michael Skinner's move where he throws the card out, and I'll show you what that looks like. Cut it back down to the bottom, get a break above it, just kind of push forward and get a right thumb break. And you just start doing basically a strip action here as you're going in and out like this, pulling off little packets, and at some point as you're coming out, you just let go with this right thumb, and that card, as you're doing that, will spin right out and will usually flip right face up, and it's a very nice kind of startling revelation. So as you're going along at speed, it looks like that ace just comes right out of the middle.
All right, here's a clever ace cutting routine. I call this Sal's Aces. It was invented and shown to me by Steve Forty. And this is a good one to show the guys, other magicians, so on and so forth, anyone that has any kind of knowledge about ace cutting or card control, so on and so forth. And I usually talk about the Stevens riffle shuffle control, because that's kind of what you're doing here, is you'll be able to riffle through, look for like the ace of spades and be able to hit it. And you can see there aren't any other aces above or below here, just like that. And as I shuffle through, I can hopefully find another one. Again, the aces aren't being kept on top. They're actually legitimately down in the deck. See if I can knock this next one off here. I think I got the ace of hearts here, just about like that. And again, no aces anywhere above it or below it or on top or on bottom, etc. Now this is go on and going forth until you can hit all four aces. And I'll show you what's actually going on here. And this actually wasn't invented by Steve. It's actually a very clever idea. And it's not really doing Stevens shuffle here, but it's actually doing a variation on it, being able to cut to each individual ace here and show that there aren't any aces above or below. And as you go on, you show that there aren't any on top either. Now what's happening here is you actually do have a slug that you're controlling. Get the next one out here. And you start with the aces on top of the deck, as you generally do in all of these lovely effects. Got the aces on top. And you immediately cut over to the right and add one card. So the first thing you see is that top card being buried. So that's a nice little off-putting device right there. Now here comes the difficult part. You're going to have to be able to stack cards a little bit, but it's not that difficult, and I'll show you what I mean. Basically, you're just going to hold back four cards. Cut over to the right, and you're going to hold back the top four cards over here and let the rest fall. So what that looks like is you shuffle down until you get to four cards on the right thumb, let a big chunk of everything else fall from the left, and let those four cards fall on top. Now you end up in this situation here where you've got a nice little break here on the right hand side between the bottom fifth card, which is actually the first ace, and the rest of the cards. So as I actually push in, you're going to do sort of like a Stevens control, which is push with the outer finger here. You're going to angle jog that packet a little bit, and what you'll see, I'll move this little chunk of those top four cards here. You'll see that little sticking out section here. That's actually the fifth card down, which is the ace of spades, sticking out right there. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to come and use that thumb to take over that break as you square up. This would be on top here. Let that coalesce here. Take over the break with your left thumb, and I immediately cut forward to reveal that first ace. And here's the beauty of this, is you can immediately flip over this packet here, because on the top here you've got an indifferent card followed by those three aces. But if you flip this pack over and spread back, you can show that there aren't any other aces around it, right above or below it. And same thing, there's nothing around on the downside of it either.
So this is really, really off-putting and confusing to anyone that knows anything about estimation aces or something like that. Now what you do is you repeat that exact sequence 3 more times. You cut over, shuffle down, add 1 card to the top, keeping that slug together. You do the same thing. Cut over to the right. Now you're going to hold back 4, drop the slug, do exactly the same thing. Hold that little, cut that little break there where that card is. Come move forward as you square up. Show the next ace. And now you're in this lovely position once more. Show there are no cards here. And now since you're adding cards on the top, you can show, look, we're not keeping the aces on top. You got 2 cards there. You add 1 more card. Just like that. Do the same exact thing. I'll do it at like half speed here. Hold back 4. Put it on here just like that. Push. Cut right here at that little move. You see, there's the next one. Same thing. You can spread here. No aces here. No aces anywhere around here. And this is a tremendous effect, especially, like I said, for anyone who knows anything about cards. Great one to fool guys late night at the club. Same thing. Hold back. Push right here as you cut. There's the final ace. And that'll pretty much fry anybody. Alright, this effect is Triumph. I'm sure many of you are very well aware of it, but it's an effect I generally throw in almost every show, especially a formal show where I'm sitting at a table, because it is just one of the classic effects of all time. I don't do it with a selection the way the professor originally did it. I generally do it as a demonstration of card control using the 4 aces. Because I often do this at the Vernon table, talking about the professor's life, so on and so forth. Even when I'm at the close-up room at the castle, I always talk about the professor. And then go into the story, giving it some emotional impact. So I'll talk about a few different shuffles, ways of doing it. I'm sure you're very familiar with a lot of different versions of Triumph. I'll just run through a few different techniques here. Say you're doing, like I said, I always use like 4 aces or a named 4 of a kind, something like that. Keep control over it, however you want to do it. Keep those little puppies on top of the deck. Now, a lot of times, depending on the show and the situation, I'll use different shuffles. A very good one is just a straight up 0 shuffle under those 4 aces. You can spread out just like this. However you want to do your 0 shuffle, it's a very convincing kind of shuffle there, especially in a kind of formal show. And then you can do whatever kind of gambler's cut or a version of Daryl's show to show the mixed up situation of the deck. For those of you that aren't kind of aware of how Triumph works, you zeroed under there. Now you've got this kind of situation here, which is the face up portion of the deck underneath the 4 aces that you zeroed under. And then to write them, you just kind of cut through and talk about the cards are face up and face down. Do the Vernon move back and forth, just like that. Now you've got the aces together, revealed in the middle of the deck, and then you can just kind of spread them out and show that there they are. That's using a 0. That's a very nice one to do. Another one I'll do is sort of a block transfer with a push-through shuffle. So you just shuffle off normally, hold back those last 4 aces there. A little bit of a chunk from the right hand there. And then you can actually spread these cards up. You push them in, but not all the way flush, but you can go pretty close. And then you spread out to give this nice picture here. And what I do is I actually kind of pull that last 4 cards, the aces, so they'll kind of line up with that out-jogged face-up section here. So when you grab them back together to kind of apparently square up, those aces are actually going to kind of coalesce with that right-hand packet. And then you can just do a push through or strip out or however you want to do it. Again, gambler's cut. Now you're right back in the Triumph position to reverse those and have the 4 aces in the center. Now, one other shuffle that actually a friend of mine, Derek Delgadio, and I played around with, which is kind of interesting, I've heard that somebody else may have invented it as well, is actually shuffle those cards in again legitimately, push them almost flush, and then spread them back to yourself. And what you're going to do is actually push the cards together. You're going to push them together, angle jogging them. So you push in with your hands actually kind of forming a triangle here, pushing them in together just like that. And as you spread up, then you can actually strip those cards out. And now you're right in back into the Triumph position. Anyway, so the shuffle is basically like this, where you actually shuffle the cards together, hold back that block, push them in, and then spread to yourself here a little bit. So you spread back. And what you're going to do is actually apparently just kind of shove the cards together, but you're actually going to angle jog them in the process. So instead of just pushing the cards together straight with the hands, you actually do it at almost like a triangle. So the cards are being pushed together and angle jogged just like that. And this is actually done very slowly, but you can do it at a pretty good clip here. Bring them together, and the aces will be like a block transfer as you come up. Grab those and then strip out
those cards. So now the aces are back on top and you're ready to go into your Triumph version. You can also use this shuffle obviously for any other kind of false shuffles, but it's a nice kind of casual shuffle and a nice little mixing of the cards. Here's another interesting little thing with Triumph that I'll sometimes do depending on the situation in the show. To get into it after you've done like a gambling demo or dealing out, let's say dealing out bottom deal out a number of hands and you keep this known out there, like say 5 hands and then the hand you've dealt, and you'll have 4 cards in each one. And nicely what you're going to do is you're going to set up for the pre-cut ace principle here, and I'll explain what that is. So you've got your aces here, you've got a known number of cards out here. You pick these up and you're going to group them together here, and as you do, you pick off and you put 4 more cards here. So you got 2 groups of 12 here. Now you just count off 3, 6, 9, 12. All the while you're talking about how you get those aces into your hand if you're going to be false dealing or stacking those cards. And now what you've done is you set up 4 packets of 12. And this is the pre-cut ace principle. And what's great about it, especially in kind of an impromptu situation, is that you can have the spectator cut off some cards, hand them to you, put the ace there, have them cut over some cards, and it doesn't matter how many they do, as you cut around, burying those aces, and you put the last cards that they cut on top here, and then collect those cards back up. It seems like a very fair way to actually lose those aces, and you can spread and show that the aces are widely separated. And what you do here is you actually look and see how many cards are on top of that first ace. In this case, there are actually there's 6 there. You actually grab it, bring them up here just like that. Now you're going to shuffle off 6 cards to the bottom. So just shuffle off 6 cards, just like that. Now you brought that first ace to the top. Of course, you don't reveal that to the audience. Now you're going to use a pharaoh to actually bring the aces together from that widely separated group. You're going to go down the thumbs, spread until you see that last ace, that ace go by here in the middle. It's actually down at 26, so if you cut right there, you know that that bottom card of the 26th pile is right there. It's going to be the ace. Actually going to cut that out. Now you just do it in the pharaoh. You can do a table pharaoh, you can do it in the hands, depends on how you want to do it. Just like this. And that's going to bring those 2 aces together, and it's actually going to bring together the other 2 aces dead center of the deck. So if you riffle down here just like that, when you go to look, you'll see there's 1 ace, there's the next one. You're going to cut right there, cut right at that section where the 2 aces are. Now you're just going to go into a table riffle shuffle. And all the while you're talking about card control and how you bring cards together. Now you just do a quick kind of, not even really stacking, just hold back 2 cards from either side. It doesn't matter as long as you bring those 4 cards together. Now you have the 4 aces on top of the deck, and you can go into any kind of ace cutting routine, or I usually go into Triumph after this, shuffling the cards face up into face down. Anyway, this is just a really nice way of supposedly losing the cards, having the audience lose the aces into the deck, and then shuffle them a few times and get them back under your control. Something I really like. I always do this, and the guys are talking about palming and hustling. Have you ever heard the term palming a card, mucking cards, going south with cards? What basically means for a gambler or hustler to hold out cards and then to kind of switch them in during play, so on and so forth, to improve their hands. And now magicians will do this technique. You'll see these guys on stage, they'll show both sides of their hand empty and produce cards out of thin air, throw them into a top hat. I don't think you're really destroying anyone's illusions. Those cards aren't coming out of thin air. They're coming out of a maneuver known as the back palm. It's a way of hiding cards in your hand, still showing the hand relatively empty. Well, it's usually done on stage at a distance of 10 to 15 feet under optimal lighting and angle conditions. Well, a man by the name of Larry Jennings was the first one to do this in a close-up environment. So what I'll do is I'll show you his solution of doing this and kind of show you what this would look like. Now, if this was done at the gambling table, like the ace of spades would be the whole card. And Hustler would do this too, like I said, to cheat at the card table. Now, there are a lot of different ways to palm cards. You can palm cards in what's known as a regular palm, a gambler's palm. You can cop cards out, longitudinal palm. There's a lot of different ways to do this. Now, if you're going to do this for show, you would take and actually kind of show and get that card and be able to roll it around there just like that. And you can see that the card actually looks pretty good. You can actually move it over to your partner's hand, and he would office me what card he needed. He needed like a heart to finish out a flush, or in this case, like the other ace over here, just like that, to improve your hand, give it a 2 of a kind. Now, if you're working single O, you can actually do something a little bit differently. You'd have to go out with the card and say hold a drink or something, or do something to mask the fact that you're holding a card in your hand. Now, it looks pretty good. You really can't see it there again till you lay it down there then with the other card. Now, of course, we moved 1 card over from each hand. We've got the last one to go. Now we've got the two red aces, diamonds and hearts over here with the ace of spades. Now if you were working single by yourself, you could keep that ace up on top of the deck, shuffle it around, then you could go out with it as you set the deck down to be shuffled and cut by one of the other players. You could go out with the ace like that. Or you could actually take the ace off the tabletop, the ace of, or the ace of clubs. You can actually take the ace of clubs actually off the tabletop here, get it to adhere to the hand. Again, it's almost impossible to see. You really can't see it until you lay it down there with the other card. And then for you skeptics out there, you can actually take and squeeze it out of the hand. And that, of course, is what's known as palming cards. All right, this is Larry Jennings' Open Travelers, Invisible Palm Aces. However you know this, it's a very popular, well-known effect, and it's one of the greatest effects you can do with a deck of cards. So that's why I almost always do it in any kind of show, formal or otherwise. And it fits in very nicely into the whole kind of gambling demo, and it fits in with that theme very well because you're talking about palming and how that's used. I'll kind of walk you through the routine here if you're not used to it. I actually basically do pretty much straightforward Larry Jennings version, the way he showed it to me. So I don't know if exactly the way it's written up in the various different versions he had. But I'll show you some of the tips and techniques that he kind of came up with and kind of the way I do it. There are a few different ways of getting into it. The most straightforward and direct way, you just need one card added into those aces. So oftentimes in the kind of a casual situation, just pick up that, get a break under a face card there, and you can just grab that card, wrist turn to break it, and now you've added that card onto there. And you can do that on the offbeat, whatever, and you're set up and ready to go. A couple other ways you can do it after you're doing like a gambling scene. I'll do that a lot of times, deal out a number of different cards, and you're picking up the cards after you've dealt that and you've shown your hand the aces here. You can just literally, you can either do like the Vernon transfer and add a card on here, or you can just go out with a card any way you want and just add it up as you pick up those cards. Now you've added an extra card into those aces. Another way of doing it, if you're seated at a table obviously, is to just simply kind of cop out a card as you're sitting here, grab those aces and just add them back. Any way you want to do it, you have one extra card among those aces, and now we get into the trick proper. The trick itself, I do it, like I said, is basically the same way that Larry Jennings used to do it and showed it to me, taught it to me. This is how I do it with a few minor little touches, and I can't say enough about it. Basically, show the four aces, and this is the way I do it. You just spread over, holding 2 on the last one. And as you're talking about it, talking about the history of palming, you're just letting each one of these drop. And this last one is just a double, so Larry used to do the bounce double. I just kind of drop it over and let it fall down just like that. Depending on the card situations, you can do any kind of doubles you want to do. Now what I basically do is just spread off 3 cards, which is the indifferent card and the 2 aces. And you spread off, and now you've got the 2 cards, 2 aces being held over here as one. So done at speed, just pushed over. Throw those down. Show this card as your whole card, or the one leader card, depending on the plot you're going to do, and then you just press it down. There are a lot of different ways to table a doubled card. You can spring it out and do Paul Wilson's kind of lay down like that. You can use the nail as you go across there. You can find lots of different ways to do it. Anyway, you lay down 2 cards as one. Now you've got the indifferent card and 2 aces. And oftentimes I will spread, and as I'm talking about this, my whole ploy is talking about going out, obviously going south with cards, mucking it. So I want to put into their mind what this looks like. So often I will take and bring out a double here and actually go into like the tint vanish and legitimately take that card. And I'll take it and quickly show that card for just a moment, and nobody really notices what that ace is. They just see an ace palm there, come back, talk about it, and talk about different styles of palming, longitudinal palm, copying. Now you're going to do the actual tint vanish. You take the indifferent card, you don't show it to them obviously. You take and you put it into this position, because basically what you're going to do for the vanish is when you apparently palm the card, you just let it drop right down and coalesce with those cards in your palm. But before that happens, you come over with the right hand and you give a nice little view there. There's a little subtlety there of seeing that card in there. And you want that hand to kind of mimic a palm here, so you can have the gambler's hook thumb out there or bring it up, however you want to do it. And oftentimes I'll actually just bring that finger in, because it just kind of makes it look like that you're trying to do something. Let that card drop. Have this card apparently palmed. Of course, there's nothing there. Then you go into whatever kind of show you want to apparently roll that card over each side. And it's amazing that I generally have this little first index finger bent or
at this kind of angle here, and people will come up to me later and say, you know, it looked really good. The only tell I could see was that finger was bent a little bit, but other than that, it looked really good. So people really do buy that you're palming cards like this. It's amazing, and you gotta love magic. Anyway, when I come to lay down, usually I don't show my hand completely empty. I try to get the illusion that I'm rolling it over, and then I come and lay it down. Now the lay down, you can do it a couple of different ways, but the important part is the actual moment. A nice little subtlety is actually kind of squeezing the hand together a little bit. As you turn the hand down, your outside of your right hand makes contact with that card, and I'll give you an exposed view, and kind of as you spread the hand wider, that's going to drag that second card over. Now, a lot of times I'll see guys do this, and they'll come over and just do that very quickly. And that looks all right, but you're not really selling the moment. The moment isn't spreading the card. The moment is laying the card down. So it's important to kind of separate that moment out of it. You don't want to make too big of a deal out of it, but it's important that you come over, take that, lay it down, and get it out of the palm. Now, gambling and hustling actually invented palming for cheating techniques. Say you're playing stud poker, and I've got the hole card here. There you go, exactly. Now, there are a lot of different ways to palm cards. So I wanted to move a card over. Now, you can palm a card in what's known as a regular flat palm, magician's palm, gambler's palm. You can cop cards out. Let's work with the ace of hearts here. Now, what I'm actually going to do is actually take and apparently show both sides of my hand empty and still retain that card in my hand. Now, if I was playing poker with a friend, I would move that card over and improve my hand. And I move it from one card to the other. Now we're going to come to the actual palming part of this section here. You've got this situation over here. You've got the two aces and the one indifferent card. You want to move one of those aces over to the tabled two aces. Here's where you're going to do that. And this is the way Larry used to do it. I take and I will drag off one card, the bottom ace, and bring over in sort of a biddle position here the ace and the indifferent card held together just like that. So as I come over to grab it, just kind of bring off that card, and you have two cards held as one. Show that. You can either do it a couple different ways as you're showing it around to the audience. You want to get into this position here. You're actually going to palm the ace of diamonds out. This is actually how Larry would do it. What you're actually going to do is as you turn the hand back around, you're going to push with your left fingers, I'll kind of expose it here, that ace out, keeping this indifferent card in alignment here as you rotate the cards into a vertical position. So I'll try to do this as exposed as possible here. You see this gets pushed into palm as these cards are brought up to this kind of upright position. Now I'll try to do this from another direction here so you can see what this looks like. You got the aces here. See what you can look like from this position here. Kind of hard to see here, but basically what you're doing is you're pushing out and palming that card, the ace, as the indifferent card, and the other ace come up into this kind of position. Now you have the ace copped out. Larry always used to give a little flick there, so I do that as a bit of homage to him. Grab those cards, and as you place those down, you move your right hand with that palmed ace and let it go right onto those cards as you scoop them up into the hand. And now you can just show them singularly here as two aces here. Now you've added on that extra ace. Put them down, grab, you're just going to do the tent vanish again with the indifferent card, exactly the same way. Grab it, go through whatever kind of machinations you want to show that the card is there or not there. Again, lay it down there, the moment, showing that the card is coming across. Now you're going to do exactly the same kind of palm, you're just doing it with one card. Show the ace around, the final ace. Same thing, this kind of swivel palm here, again, exposed views, that card's going to do that into the hand as it's brought up into the hand. Have that ace copped out there, you move that one down, and in one motion come over here and grab and sweep up the apparent aces. You've got show that you've got the two cards there, the ace and the other ace. The ace of clubs has come over, showing them as three aces. Card over and improve my hand. And I move it from one card to the other. Now, of course, over here we've got now we got the ace of spades with the ace of hearts. Try this one more time here. Work with the ace of diamonds. Trying to get it so it looks all right for you two here. Now, again, if I can roll it around, it looks pretty good here. It looks like that. It actually looks really good. You really can't see it there again until I lay it down there with the other cards. And I'm going to move it around. Now, of course, we've got the two red aces. That's right. They got the two red aces, diamonds and hearts over here with our original hole card. All right, and now we're going to vanish the last ace with kind of a variant on the rub-a-dub vanish. usually done in this kind of procedure. This is a little bit different way of doing it. I think it's a little more visual. It's actually something Jason England and I and a few other guys have played around with. A friend of his kind of came up with a few different versions, and this is a variant on that. It's done at a very kind of out on the edge of the deck position here. And basically what you're going to do is the same thing, is you're going to whip that card back in when you're apparently placing it back down. Now I always do it once legitimately because you want to build the move in, set it up. And there's a nice retention of vision, so you want it to match what what's going to happen in the actual vanish. So the hand comes over, you want to show this kind of outside edge as the hand comes down. Do the wrist turn because you're going to match that. And I always do what Larry used to do, which is kind of stop for a second to kind of show that the card is actually there and apparently forget what card it is, look at it, of course miscall it, say I don't know what ace it is, come out and go, I'm going to put this ace down the, ace of clubs, nice little subtlety there. Now you're going to do the actual vanish, and what happens is exactly the same except you whip it back in and don't let it go to the ground. And you get this nice kind of retention of vision vanish here. As it comes out, you see that actual corner there and it's actually gone, and you do the wrist turn to kill it. So in slow motion, it's here and down, and the hand is kind of coming down to the table at the same time as the wrist turn is happening. And the vanish is made. Sell it, the vanish is here, or you're palming it, whatever your modus is, apparendi. Now this is something that I do, and it depends on the location you're at, the humidity and stuff, but I have pretty sticky hands. So what I'll do is actually push down as I stick that out there, and you see that ace will actually adhere to my hand here. So you get this nice extra effect of pushing down. You say sometimes people don't actually think it's sticking to the hand. Actually, you don't usually talk that long, but if you actually can do it, you can actually stick it to your hand and then squeeze it out of the hand, and that just gets an amazing ovation here from the audience, really proving that that ace is in the hand, and that is Larry's wonderful effect. Right, they got the two red aces, diamonds, and hearts over here with their original hold card. Now, I was actually the dealer in the game. I could actually shuffle that card around, keep it on top like I did before. I could go out with it as I set the deck down. I could go out with the ace like that. Or I could actually take it off the tabletop. I could actually take the ace off the ace of clubs. I could actually take the ace of clubs actually off the tabletop here and get it to adhere to the hand. It actually looks pretty good. You really can't see it. It's nowhere to be found until I lay it down there just like that. And if I want, I can actually take and squeeze it out of the hand. That's what's known as palming cards. Now the game itself is exceedingly simple. The object is to not bet or follow any one of the black cards. You want to follow the money card, the red card. And what happens when they do it on the street, they'll take and they'll toss it down so the queen starts over on the left. Or if something looks pretty much the same, they can start it so the queen starts in the middle. Or they can start over on my right, your left. Of course, when they're doing this for money on the street, they're not going to make it that simple. They're going to do it a little bit more difficult. What that means is once they toss the cards down and establish queen and black, then they'll start moving them around. And this is where confusion sets in. You have to try to follow. It looks like the queen ended up over there. It actually ended up over there. If you bet on the black, you lose. If you bet on the red, you're doubling your money. Now on the street, they'll actually move it a little bit differently, make it harder to follow. They'll take and toss it down and show you a black card and a black card. Then they'll move the cards over each other. Now it looks like the queen ended up here this time, right? Okay, man, let's play the game to you. This is what you want to follow. You don't want to follow either one of these. Perhaps I was a bit unclear. You didn't know what to follow. We'll try it again. Now, when they do this for money on the street, they always have a little verbal misdirection, a little rigmarole to go along with it. A little game of hanky-poo, the black for me, the red for you. 10 will get you 20, 20 will get you 40, over on 40. Find the red, get paid on the head. Now, sometimes they even tip their hand and show you a black card and a black card. You probably want to bet on that one over there. Of course, by the time you do, you see that's a loser, that's a black card. You don't want to bet on that one because that's black, that's black. Perhaps I'm going a bit fast. Maybe we should slow it down. Here. Now what happens on the street is actually much faster than I'm doing it here, and it's almost impossible to follow. It's really more mass confusion than it is kind of sleight of hand. They'll take and they'll cross their arms like that. Looks like the queen ended up over there, it actually ended up over there. Sometimes they'll do what's known as the hype or the double arm cross, just like that. And that would convince you that the queen ended up over here, it actually ended up over here. Again, you don't want to bet on either one of the black cards, you want to follow the money card, the queen. Now they can do it very slowly and it's still almost impossible to feel. It looks like the queen ended up here, right?
No, not
over here. Oh, did I bend that when I dropped it? You did. You probably don't want to bet on that. You did a lot of trouble if you do. Never, ever bet on another man's game. All right, now one of my favorite things to do at almost any performance, I'll usually throw this in, even if it's very informal, just sitting at Vernon's couch,
or a major show at the close-up room at the castle, 3-card Monte is one of the best things you can do for an audience. It just really is. And I know some kind of card guys sometimes shy away from it because, hey, it's not knuckle-breaking work, but it is a great routine and it really fits in with any kind of gambling set. First of all, I generally use either an all-back card when I'm doing a 3-card Monte. You can use B-back, whatever. I like to use Steamboat sometimes just because they're kind of a different-looking card, and giving the historical kind of background on it, being starting on the riverboats, kind of fits in nicely. Preparation of the cards. I'm sure you've all seen this done many times before, but slight bend in the cards, and I prepare a little bit differently. Some hustlers showed me how to do this. I'll actually put a little bend in the long side of the cards here that helps it kind of sit flat and still be able to pick up very easily. And then of course you're going to put the ear in on each side, which is soften these edges on the outside right corner of each side of the lovely cards. Now the routine itself is pretty much straight out of Expert at the Card Table. Vernon's kind of derivation of that, with a few things that I've kind of come up with or found in performing this hundreds and hundreds of times and seeing how people react to it. Because one of the most important things in doing 3-card Monte is to not confuse the audience. And if you confuse the audience or get them to the point where they know they can't win or have no chance whatsoever, they're going to immediately forget about it and stop paying attention, and then you have an effect where nobody's caring where the queen is or whatever the money card is, and you're in a very bad situation. So I think this routine that I use, and is very similar to Vernon's and a couple others, is very well thought out on how to keep track of what's going on in the audience's mind and make sure that they're going to pay attention to what you want them to pay attention to.
You want them to care about what's going on. Now, the one move you're going to be doing, of course, is what's known as the hype. You're going to pick up the 2 cards here. The money card is generally what you're switching out. Pick up the black card, the indifferent card, between the middle finger and thumb. And you're going to pick up the money card that you're going to switch out with the ring finger and thumb. And it's important to have this long side together, in my opinion. You really don't want to have a gap there like that, because when you toss that top card instead of the second card, it's going to be very obvious. If they're together, not so obvious that you've thrown the top card. So what you're going to do is just practice and get that up to speed, just like I'm sure you've seen it before. You're going to pick up that card and be able to throw the bottom card or throw the top card. And what you do is when you throw the top card and keep the second card, you want to have your fingers match that position. It's a subtle thing, but I think it works and it's important. So when you throw the top card, apparently throwing the bottom card, when you make the hype, you toss it, let that card go off the top, just like that, and immediately switch the finger positions here. So you're holding the now bottom card, the money card, with the appropriate finger. That's important in my opinion, and it's just a knack that you'll get to, and you'll get to doing it. So it just looks like that, and you're holding the card in the right finger. Now the routine that I do is based on kind of building in the move, getting them associated with what's going on so they'll know what's supposed to happen. I start off with showing the cards, giving the story, and I always tell them about the history of it, and you can throw in as much verbiage as you would like. And I build this into the motion. I show the card, I throw the card down, legit throw, and get this built in too, picking up a card and showing it. So I show a black card. Sometimes I'll even do a hype right here just so it looks the same, even though you're not doing anything, and a black card. Explain to them that you can start the card over here by something that looks pretty much the same, do a straight throw, then you can either do a throw like this, so that throws the queen in the middle. These are all legit, so you say you can start it on either side. Now, what they do on the street, this is again what you're telling the patter, you will toss it down, again a legit throw, and then you can toss it just like this. Now that it ends up over here, they're not going to make it that simple, they start moving it around. And now here's the first little bit. You say, now it looks like it ended up over here. Of course, it didn't look like it ended up there, it looked like it ended up over there, but you're throwing them off already. So they already think they're a little bit ahead. And you say, it looked like it went over here, but it actually ended up over here. So that gives them a little bit of, as an audience member, like, okay, I followed that, and he's already trying to tell me it looked somewhere like it wasn't somewhere else, and so you're already ahead of them a little bit. Now is when you're going to actually do the move. You're going to do exactly the same thing. You're going to follow exactly the same pattern. Do the hype, toss the card down, drop the card, show a black card. Now sometimes I'll do this kind of motion, which is throw it down and then come up and immediately show that card there. It's just a different way of doing the hype. It's exactly the same way of doing it like this, except it gives a nice little kind of different feel to it. Black card and black card. Now what you're going to do is move the cards over each other.
And the cards are being moved exactly the same way as they were before, so they should think that the queen went over here. And you say, now it looked like the queen went over here, right? You saw it end up over here. The Vernon thing of legitimately telling them where the queen really is. And they'll immediately say, no, it ended up over here. And you just tell them, no, look, it ended up over here. Like I told you, you don't want to follow either one of these. And this is a nice little subtle bit, because you never want to put them in a position really of, in a challenge position, especially in a show, because people are not going to want to look foolish. They're going to want to try to find it. So they're either going to say what they don't believe, or they're not going to play along. So after you do this move, you throw down hype, you show black card and a black card, you move the cards around, it looks like the queen went over here. They'll say, no, ended up over here. No, look, I'm to explain to you, the queen did end up over here, trying to help you.
Now, it can be tossed down in a number of different ways. I can start the queen so it's over on my left, or I can do something that's pretty much the same. I can start the queen so it starts in the middle, or I can start it over on my right or left. Of course, they're not going to win a lot of money doing that, so they're going to make it a little more difficult. What happens is, once they establish where they are, they'll throw the queen down in black and black, then they'll start mixing them up, and you have to try to follow where the queen is. If you bet over here, it looks like it over there, you lose because it ended up over there. If you bet on the black, again, you lose. You bet on the red, you're going to get paid on the head. Now, on the street, they'll actually move it a little bit differently to make it harder to follow. Again, you don't want to follow the black. What they'll do is, once they toss it down and show you a black card and a black card, then they'll move the cards over each other. And this time, it really looked like the queen ended up here, right? You followed it? Okay, I want to explain again. This is the one you want to follow. You don't want to follow either one of these. Perhaps I was a little unclear of what the object was.
Now comes the next little segment here, which is take it, do the hype as you throw down. You're going to throw the card, the queen apparently in the middle, hype. The black card went down, the queen's over here. Drop the queen over on the side. So at speed, it looks like this. Throw the queen. Now you actually move the cards over just like this. So you end up with the queen over in this position. Apparently it's here. And you're going to say sometimes they'll even they'll tip their hand and give you a hint. They'll show you a black card. You pick up the queen, show the black, toss it down, black card, just like that. Now probably people would want to bet on this one here. And of course when they do, now you come over, the queen is actually here. Pick it up, show it. I'll usually do this, throw it to the audience that way. That one's a loser. Come back over, pick up this one. I'll usually do the hype here just to kind of throw people off. And say, look, it's not here, it's not here, it's over here.
Object was. We'll try it again.
Yeah, try it again.
Yeah. They always have a little verbal misdirection, a little rigmarole to go along with this. A little game of hanky-poo, the black for me, the red for you. 10 will get you 20, 20 will get you 40 over on 40. Find the red, get paid on the head. Now sometimes, yeah, they'll even tip their hand and let you bet on that card. If they show you black and black, you want to bet on that one there. Of course, by the time you get your money down, you see that's a loser. You don't want to bet on that card, and that's a loser, that's a black, that's a black. Perhaps I'm going a bit fast.
Now this is where confusion sets in. So from this point on, you're really not going to be able to get them anymore. So I generally go into the next phase. Now if I'm doing this in an informal setting, this is where I'm going to put the ear on. Here's what I'll do. If I'm doing it like at the Vernon couch or someplace where I've just been asked to do something, I'll do it like this. After I toss the cards down and do the move and show tip their hand, black card, you probably want to bet on that one there. Of course, if you do, you lose because that's a black card, and that's a black card, and that's a loser, I'm back over here. What I'll do is I'll actually let it fall off the edge of the table, or let it fall onto the floor, and as I pick it up, I will put the ear on the card like that, because that's a nice casual way of doing it. Now in a formal show, I wouldn't do that, but in a very casual setting, it works really well, because people think it did that when it fell onto the floor. Now in a show, you can do it a number of different ways. Probably the best way is the Vernon way of doing it, which is actually just hitting the corner here like that. And if it's a soft card, you can do it. Or you can actually use your finger to bend it first as you do that. I don't think you need to do that much. Put the ear on. Now what you're going to have to do is gauge your audience. If it's a very, smart, fast audience that's paying attention, then maybe you don't want to put that ear on quite so strong. You want to put it on kind of subtly. And then you go into the moves. And here what you're going to do is you just really kind of go at speed if you were doing it on that. And you want to confuse them, but you want to set it up and say, look, it looked like the queen went there, it looked like it went there, it actually ended up over here. And you want to do a number of different moves. You can actually throw in a false hype there or something, whatever you want to do. Basically, you're trying to confuse them, but to show them that, look, it looked like it ended up over here, it looked like it ended up over here, it actually ended up over here. I generally repeat this twice at least for them to start to notice that that queen is bent. Now oftentimes you'll get some helpful members of the audience that'll say the queen's bent, like Vernon used to talk about. You can figure out how to deal with those, and if they are, that they're following it and think they're in on something, then you can skip right ahead to the next part here, which is the switch out. Switch out exactly like Vernon used to do it. You're going to use your right little finger, and you've got your ring finger curled on top, and you just basically pull that soft corner up, as you go to show it. So you show, look, there's you don't want to bet on this one, you don't want to bet on this one, and you do it as the hand is curved over like that, as it's turned face down. And you can find your own moments to do this. So basically you put the ear in, have the hand over it, show that queen, show it a couple of times, come over, immediately toss, and now you're going to straighten that out just with the ring finger is what I do it, and immediately come down. And you don't want to make this one very confusing. You want to do it pretty straightforward. And you'll say, now it really looked like the queen ended up here. And this is when you know you've got them. And this is what, performing it, you'll get that knowledge and feeling when you know you have them. And as soon as you say it again, you're literally every time pointing out and telling them where the queen is. This is the beautiful moment when they immediately show, no, it's over here. And boom, you get the moment, oh, you probably don't want to bet on that one. Never ever bet on another man's game.
Loser, you don't want to bet on that card. And that's a loser, that's a black, that's a black. Perhaps I'm going a bit fast, maybe I should slow it down. Drop that. Now what happens on the street is they actually go much faster than I'm doing it here, and you really have no chance whatsoever. They don't use so much subtlety or sleight of hand as it is confusion. They'll take and they'll move the cards around. Sometimes they'll cross their arms. It looks like the queen ended up over here. It actually ended up over there. Again, it's almost impossible to follow. I'll do it one more time as you take and toss it around and move it around. Oh, you do it in the big corner. Oh, I did that when I dropped it. Yeah, you probably don't want to bet on that. You get a lot of trouble if you do. Never, ever bet on another man.
Here's a little more in-depth view of the kind of key move, the 3-card Monty, the hype. You've got your money card here, whichever one you're going to want to switch out, and you've got the card that you're going to switch it out for in the move. So the way you pick it up, the way you hold it, first of all, is the first card, which is going to be the top card, is held between the ring finger and thumb, like so. Get it into this position. And now you're going to pick up the money card here, like this. And you're going to hold it. I'll move that card out of the way. It's being held by the ring finger and thumb. Now together, you pick up the top card, middle finger and thumb, come over and pick up, you can see there it is, it's kind of an exposed view, ring finger and thumb with the second card. Now it's very important, in my opinion, to have this edge seamless. You don't want to have any kind of break here, because that is going to really kind of show off when that top card throws. It's much different to see that top card go off like that as opposed to when they're together and see that top card go. So what you do is you pick up, have those edges together, and the hype is done as you turn the wrist. And it can be done if you're coming from up above, showing it directly. If you have a large audience, you can throw straight down. I do that often. But the basic one is just on the wrist move here. So you're going to practice, first of all, the straight hype on the square, which is tossing the bottom card, the queen in this particular instance. It can be an ace, whatever you're using. You're going to toss it down just like that. And I continue the wrist move as I go, because I want it to look like the fake move. And you want to have it sound like the fake move too, so the top card kind of brushes off the back a little bit as it's going down. Now you can do this very, very slowly too. You can do it slowly. It's just whatever your style is. If you're trying to do it kind of as a street hustler, you might want to do it harder. That's completely up to you. But the important part is that you let go as the cards are turned down. And the force of the wrist turn is what causes that bottom card to come out. You just release with the ring finger and you hold on to the top card. Now the hype, the false move, is done exactly the same way, except you're releasing with the middle finger instead of the ring finger. And you just let that top card go. And done very slowly, it looks like that. And immediately, as soon as this is done, you're going to have that middle finger take over from the ring finger so that your hand position will be where it should be if that bottom card had gone down and not the top. So I'll do it one more time here. If you pick up, keep that edge together, show the card to the audience or wherever, and you're going to toss down, and here's the hype done very slowly, just like that. And you get this nice illusion. It can be done extremely slowly. I've seen like Richard Turner do this very slowly and very pretty. It's done whatever way you want to do it that you feel comfortable with. It's just the important aspects are tossing that top card down and taking over the right finger position so you end up in that position. And that's your basic hype move there. And the other important false move in this is actually switching out the ear. First of all, putting on the ear. If you put it on, you can do it like I said, like Vernon used to do here, just like that. The move is actually going to be done with the ring finger and pinky. If you want to put it on, you just pull up, just like that. The ring finger is kind of pushing down a little bit. and that puts it on there if you need to do that, if you want to put it on in another way. Now when you're switching it out, you're going to do exactly the same way with the X card, whatever it is, the black card or the Joker. So at some point, when you figure out in your routine, Vernon used to do it when you say, look, you don't want to bet on this one here, you just get the hands into the right position to put that ear on, turn this hand down, and you're going to show the other card, and now you just put the ear on. And you can do this at any point that works in your routine. You just do it when they aren't looking, just like Melini used to say. So now you have the ear there, the fingers are covering it, and now you're just going to do the height move to switch it out. You'll show that queen there with the bent corner, toss the top card, and immediately use that ring finger to press down, or you can use the little finger, whichever works for you. Push that bend down, and then finish out the toss, and now you've ended up switching the bent corner card there, and now you're back into the routine, and hopefully you'll fool the heck out of them.